The movie opens with Cassie singing in the bar. She performs at the bar, where she also works as a waitress. After the performance, Cassie gets ready for her shift. A group walk in behind her. When Cassie sees Frankie, she is overjoyed. Frankie introduces her to his group. Cassie goes to serve the group. Luke chases Cassie and has a conversation. Cassie walks off, annoyed with Luke. Cassie asks Nora to cover her shift for 5 minutes and heads to her car. Cassie proceeds to give herself an insulin shot and realizes she needs to refill her prescription. Next day, Cassie at the pharmacy argues with the cashier. The cashier tells her that she can't refill Cassie's prescription because her insurance is not renewed, so the only way she can get a refill is if she buys it on her own. But Cassie can't do that, especially when the medications are so expensive. The next day, Luke is out on a run when a car starts chasing him out of nowhere. Luke runs to save his life and climbs over a fence. The person chasing him is none other than his old dealer, Jono. Jono reminds Luke that he still owes him $15. Luke promises to get it to him as soon as he can, because if he doesn't, John has threatened to harm his family. One night, while performing with her band, Cassie suddenly felt out of breath and dizzy. When Cassie comes back to life, something catches her attention, making her smile. It's the badge of the Marine Corps. The next morning, Cassie visits Frankie. Luke answers the door. Cassie enters and finds decorations around the house. Cassie proposes marriage to Frankie. Before Frankie can say a word, Luke interrupts their conversation, urging Frankie not to do it. Luke knows the consequences of a fake marriage. Cassie walks out disappointedly. The next day, Luke meets up with the rest of his family, and they are surprised to see Luke. Luke spends some time with his family, but it's clear to Jacob that Luke wants something. Luke hesitantly tells him that he owes money to someone. Later, Luke heads over to Jono with some cash, but the man is unhappy to see that it's only a small chunk of the amount. Luke promises to get him the full amount, but asks him to wait and leave his family. Luke tells him that he has a plan. He knows a girl who needs health insurance benefits that come from being a Marine spouse, and that policy will pay him enough to repay his debt. The next day, Luke meets Cassie in a restaurant and tells her that he's ready to marry her, but they need to have a plan to make their affair believable. Luke tells her that he needs an extra $2,000 at the end of each month for some time. Luke tells her that if they do this, they have to make their relationship absolutely believable. They plan to get a divorce once he returns. Cassie agrees to all of Luke's terms. The next day, they head to court together and get married. Later, Luke tells Cassie to get dressed since she needs to drive him to the base. When they arrive at the base, Luke tells her that if anything were to happen to him in the war, Cassie should go to his brother Jacob and explain their deal to him. But he warns him that no matter what happens, his dad should never find out about this. Luke leaves with the other soldiers. Cassie's life gets on track with the new insurance. She takes treatment for diabetes and slowly starts repaying her debts. Meanwhile, Luke, on the war front, saves lives and fights for his nation. They continue to chat with each other. Cassie tells Luke that she wrote a song. Later, on a video call, Frankie asks Cassie to sing that song and lift up some spirits. Cassie agrees and starts singing a song. When the song ends, everyone applauds for her. The next time they talk, Cassie tells Luke that she posted her song online, and someone with some authority liked it so much that they gave her band a slot at the local singing festival. Cassie gets on stage at the festival. She dedicates the song to all the brave men serving the country. Cassie's song went viral. Later, Cassie receives a call, and an officer informed her that an accident occurred and her husband was wounded in combat. Cassie searches out the address that Luke gave her and heads out to see his brother Jacob. Cassie accidentally ends up at the wrong Jacob's place, who turns out to be Luke's dad. At first, the man refuses to entertain Cassie, thinking that she might be one of Luke's responsible friends. But when he finds out the truth, the man is shocked because he never even knew that Luke had enlisted. Cassie confesses that she's Luke's wife. When Luke wakes up, he finds himself in the hospital, surrounded by his family and Cassie. Luke's father gets mad at him for never telling him that he enlisted, but he's happy that at least Luke will be awarded a Purple Heart. Everyone else steps out, leaving the couple alone. Luke freaks out over his father, finding out about their marriage. Cassie tells him that though they get a divorce soon and everything will sort itself out, Luke can't let that happen. The next day, at the hospital, Luke's father decides to help Luke through the recovery process and decides to visit their place every now and then. Luke's family helps him move into Cassie's place. After everyone leaves, Cassie gets into an argument with Luke. They clean the apartment together and make sure that it looks like a married couple's home. Luke's family arrives at the apartment, and Luke's father takes Luke out for therapy. As the days go by, Luke works hard at recovery, and Cassie gets back to her music. One night, while Cassie is performing on stage, she gets a call from her mother. Luke answers the call and finds out that something is wrong. He arrives at her mother's place and finds that there has been a break-in. Luke gets a call from Jono. The man tells Luke that he better return his money or else he will expose the truth about his marriage. The next day, Luke leaves to meet up with Jono. He confronts the man, beating him up badly and threatening him to never come near his wife and his loved ones. He throws the money at the man and leaves. When Luke returns home, he finds Cassie packing her stuff to leave. She tells him that a man approached her mother, threatening to expose her daughter's fake marriage. Luke realizes that it was Jono and assures Cassie that this thing won't happen again. Cassie is shocked to know that Luke already knows the person. He finally tells her the real reason why he wanted to marry her. It was for money after his mother passed. Luke got into some bad company and started using Jono as his dealer in his messed up state. Luke stole a car that his dad was building for a customer and totaled it on the freeway. The car cost $50,000, and his dad threatened to put him in jail if Luke didn't pay for the damages, so he paid his dad back. Luke borrowed money from Jono. After realizing his mistake, he stopped and enlisted in the army once he was clean. Luke assures Cassie that he's taken care of this and nothing of the sort will happen again, but Cassie is inconsolable. She's scared for her mother and what could have happened to her. She leaves for her show that night, asking him to be gone by the time she returns. After a successful show, Cassie gets another piece of good news when her band is picked to open up for another famous band, while Luke is approached by a commander, asking him to return to the base with him. Luke packs his stuff and then leaves. In the middle of the night, Luke's father calls Cassie and tells him that Luke has been charged with fraud because of their fake marriage. He tells her that there will be a trial in a few weeks, and she will be contacted by the police for the role she played in this. Jacob wonders if their whole relationship was an act. Cassie tells him that it's true. They lied, but they weren't faking it the whole time. On the day of the hearing, when the judge was announcing the charges against Luke and Cassie, Luke made a bold statement. He claimed that he was the one who coerced Cassie into marrying him and that she had no idea what she was getting into. Shocks everyone, especially Cassie. The judge declares Luke guilty as charged, and as a punishment, Luke will have to go away on duty for 6 months, after which he will be discharged for bad conduct. Later, Cassie was overwhelmed to see the huge crowd of people waiting for her performance. This is a big deal for Cassie, as this gate brings her one step closer to her dream. Meanwhile, Luke is surprised to see his Purple Heart plaque next to his father's similar honor. After delivering a successful performance, she gazes out into the crowd. Cassie realizes something and rushes out of there. She drives to Luke's base. Luke bids an emotional goodbye to his family. Cassie arrives. Luke is surprised to see her there and congratulates her on the music deal she bagged. Cassie tells him that for her, this is a real marriage and she doesn't want to give it up. Luke is confused by her sudden confession because he's been shipping off for 6 months. but Cassie tells him that she wants to wait for him. Luke wraps his arms around her. A few months later, Cassie welcomes Luke back home like a true soldier's wife.